Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Now, as you can tell by the title, this is very different from the reaction series and the Let's Play that I've been doing. For those of you that don't know, I'm a psychologist. I recently got my master's degree in counseling psychology in Europe, actually. And beforehand, I was doing, for a number of years, been doing a lot of like counseling practice, therapy, whatever you can imagine. I got different forms of techniques to go ahead and establish. But today, we're going to go ahead and talk about breakups and recovery time and attachment styles and all of that wonderful things, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? And this is something I noticed by just doing a quick scour on YouTube. There is so much misinformation out there from people who claim that they are experts in the field, but yet have no educational background, have run no test, and don't have any experience with actual clients or with actually like talking to people, right? So I came to go ahead and clear up that misconception and give out, the best possible life advice possible that's out there, right? So right off the bat, let me start off with the clear thing, right? So there are life coaches, and as you can tell, it's about to start raining. There are life coaches and there are therapists, right? And there's a big difference, right? A therapist usually has to go to school, has to study, has to get their master's degree, and usually get licensed in the state that they're working. Meanwhile, a coach usually doesn't even have a certification. It's usually off of their advice that they give and stuff like that. While all of this, right, while I do have my master's degree and while I am certified where I'm at currently, and, I've been working through everything, all the advice that I'm giving, take it as a life coaching opportunity, right? That from someone that has a degree in their psychological field. For those of you that are interested, I'm actually an attachment specialist, so I really zoned in on the attachment field and specifically about like what makes a relationship work, what makes it fail, so on and so forth. So breaking up, it sucks, guys. And this whole video is basically going to be a little bit about my thesis that I worked on previously for my master's, talking a little bit about the results and sort of why it takes a while to recover, why it hurts. And just know this, every relationship is different, every breakup is different, and every situation is different. So I will be going ahead, and doing like a little, I don't know, for the first 5 people, I'll put in like a code down at the bottom in the comments section, right? Feel free to email me, right? I am not doing this as a counseling thing, completely separate. Take it more like a life coach, right? For the first 5 people that email me about anything going on in their life, and I'll reiterate this at the end, they can be having issues, whatever issues you guys may be having, I'll give you guys my honest and true, what I would do in that situation, or, what works best for certain people, right? So I'll put in a little hint, a little code with the Gmail that you're supposed to email, and just put in that code there. And the first 5 people that do it, I'll go ahead and respond to. Maybe make a video response as well, without using your names and keeping everything confidential. Anyway, breaking up sucks, guys. It is one of the most heart-wrenching things that happens, and it happens to everyone. You can either be really attached or you can't be. But before we go into breaking up, right, let's talk a little bit about attachment, right? So attachment comes in different forms, different ways, right? Bowlby is usually the go-to person that we look for in attachment psychology, right? So usually you're either securely attached, which means that like you have good relationships growing up, your parents cared for you in a loving environment, you weren't too overly clingy, but you weren't avoidant either. You were steady, normal per se, right? The next one is avoidant. So there's usually an avoidant attachment, you reciprocate what you sort of don't need, right? So you tend to push others away, you tend to keep people at a distance. I'm doing this as a form so that you guys know the extremities of it. And anxious attachment, right, is the attachment style in which we cling too hard into others, right? Finally, ambivalent can usually be a mixture of one or the other, right? So you can have an anxious avoidant attachment style, right? Where some cases you're really clinging into someone, the next moment you want them as far away from you as possible. So, with that being said, all of us grow up through this schema, this way that we interpret life, and this way that we look at scenarios, and how the environment makes us grow, our parents, our family, culture, everything plays a factor into the way that we attach ourselves to individuals, right? So, my thesis, right, was about, what helps, or what elongates a recovery time after a breakup, because there is almost no studies done in this field whatsoever, right? And as an attachment specialist, my main goal is to go ahead and find out what helps and what doesn't help and what's been affecting attachments, right? So I did a couple of things, right? The 5 things were: look at sexual desire, look at, could it be any of the anxious or avoidant attachments? Was it the relationship duration, or was it self-esteem? What affected your recovery after a breakup, right? Um, and just really quick before we get further into it, and I'll give a client example as well. So 3 things came back significantly affecting recovery times and affecting the way that we recover, right? And the first one being a dodoe, in which anyone can go ahead and tell, is the relationship duration. So essentially, the longer that you were in the relationship, the longer the amount of time that you need to recover, which makes sense. But when you're in a moment of desperation, when you're in a moment where your heart hurts and you're emotionally wrecked for a little bit, logically, you're not thinking through this. And logically and emotionally, you're feeling as though, the world might be ending. And that emotional pain might actually even turn into physical pain. So, what was the next one? Sexual desire. It turns out that the individuals that have a higher sexual desire for their partner needed a longer time to recover as well. And last but not least, individuals that were anxiously attached, that had a little bit of a clinging sensation, that really depended on their partner and needed their partner there, took a longer time to go ahead and recover. So what does this mean, right? And why am I saying this out loud and like out there in the first place, right? Well, it's simple, right? What this means is, as I said, every breakup is different, every recovery time is different, and every situation is different. And by analyzing ourselves and coming into the conclusion like, hey, you know what? I think I might be an anxious person. I think I might be anxiously attached to the partners that I get, to the relationships that I get. Or you know what? I think I might be a little bit of more of an avoidant, I might have more of an avoidant attachment style. And, I keep putting up these walls, right? So I will go through a quick scenario with you guys. So a couple of weeks ago, I actually had a client that was talking to me about, essentially they got heartbroken, found out that their partner was cheating on them, and they wanted to go ahead and get back with their partner, right? And this was a one-on-one coaching session. As I was going through it and I was talking with them about it, we came up with the joint discussion as to, what is your attachment style? Well, how does that affect you, right? And he sort of brought up the idea that he couldn't live without his partner there. His partner meant the world to him. He grew up, like, they spent 6-7 years together. His partner was his rock. And, he kept elevating his partner up to his pedestal, right? And whenever you tried to focus in, right? And this is usually true for the first little bit. Like, he was emotionally devastated, heartbroken. It felt as though his world crumbled down. But yet, when you try and mention this partner, try and find flaws as to his form of thinking, it was a little too late because he had elevated his partner up into a pedestal, right? So, right off the bat, one of the first pieces of advice that I can go ahead and say and give to those people that are heartbroken is, well, don't try and dehumanize and villainize your partner, right? Which at some point, if you've gone through a breakup, you try and do whatever coping mechanisms you can do to heal yourself. And that works, do whatever makes you you. But at the same time, if you over villainize people, you'll go ahead and find yourself into a slippery slope. And also, as this individual was doing, don't put him on a pedestal either. We're humans. We make mistakes. And that is the most common thing that happens in our lifetime, right? We're all bound to make a mistake at one point or another. So while I was talking to this individual, I was telling him, hey, I'm going to use Mark. Hey, Mark, like, so what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to improve? What do you want to get out of this? And, he just wouldn't listen to my questions at first, and he kept rambling on throughout the story. He told me that, like, he got blocked on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and, he was almost blocked on Instagram. My bad, let me retract that. But that they could still see what each other were posting on Instagram, and that's sort of the big thing, right? So after I talked to him a little bit about it, I was like, have you tried no contact, right? And he's like, what is that? So no contact for those of you out there, right? And you might see 1,000 other videos on YouTube about that on here. And you might even make me see another video about this specific topic, no contact, in the future, in about a couple of days. No contact is essentially completely cutting off all contact with that individual. And it sucks. Trust me. I know it sucks. I've been in your shoes if you're going through this. But if you want to heal, it is probably the best and most efficient way for you to go ahead and do that. No contact means no, don't reach out to them. You know, don't specifically post a picture of you and something that individual used to do. Because trust me, we've all been in that boat, and doing that is only going to hurt you in the long run. And like, you're actually, a lot of people are anxiously thinking about, you know, did they see my post? Did they not? How are they going to react to it? None of that. Block them if you have to. If you want to go ahead and move on and heal, this is your opportunity to heal, right? And I'll throw this out there, and this is a big and. If push comes to shove, right, and if there is a connection there or some sort of retrieval after a month of no contact, right, which you should be focusing on yourself. The overall goal of a breakup and recovery time is healing, and healing for yourself, and learning to love yourself, and learning to move on, right, which is a hard step. It is one of the biggest steps you can possibly do, and sometimes we're down in the dumps and probably the biggest hole that we've ever seen. But it's about healing and moving forward. But with that being said, right, try 30 days, no contact. Focus on self-care, self-love. Dude, find something you're passionate about. Get your mind off of things. If they reach out to you, you know, then you can start planning accordingly. I wouldn't say jump into like the full relationship mindset immediately. Instead, hang out, hook up, and have fun. That's honestly probably the best thing that you can do. But overall, you know, if you were, you know, I wouldn't say infidelity isn't necessarily, you know, you'll see a lot of coaches and people out there trying to say, you know, if there was some sort of infidelity, that's it. Cut him out. Move on. We're human. Our minds think differently. We all have different schemas, and we all have different ways of processing information and of reacting to one another, right? Infidelity, like dealing with infidelity and dealing with that whole subtopic, which is something I'll get into in a separate video. It takes a lot, and it takes both partners working together, but it is something that can go ahead and be healed from, right? However, just simply telling a person to cut their losses and run is also not the greatest advice out there. What it is to spend that time healing on yourself, working on your future, and finding something that you're passionate about. And as I mentioned, if they do reach out, then that's something that you can go ahead and start, you know, rebuilding if you feel healthy enough to go ahead and do that. So again, breakups suck, guys. Don't get me wrong. As I said, they're absolutely horrible. And as an attachment specialist, like, you know, the pain that we feel, you know, as someone that's gone through many breakups, the pain that we feel throughout, like, you know, especially if you're really attached to someone, can really be detrimental, and it can knock you on your, you know, on your ass for a couple of months, to be honest with you. Like, I remember, personal anecdote, I was in a relationship for a good number of years, and I remember after, you know, the breakup happened, I was knocked back on my ass for around 6 months, essentially, trying to find myself, trying to find my own identity. And I actually fell into a slippery slope, as I mentioned earlier in the video, about, you know, not villainizing the other individual in the relationship, and finding your self-care, and finding who you want to be, and what dreams you want to pursue, right? So, and this will all be different stories that I'll throw at you guys from time to time. But overall, the best advice that I can give you, you know, is number one, if you're going through a breakup right now, or if, you know, you're probably on here because you've gone through a breakup recently, or you're recovering from that breakup, self-care, self-love, guys. You know, as you can see, some of my paintings back here, even back here, they're not the best paintings in the world. But you know what? When I'm feeling down, or when I have a day for self-care, I'll knock one out. I'll work on music. I have a theater company. I'll work on my, like, some scripts with my theater company and stuff. Find something that makes you you, and gets your mind off of things, and works together with you on that one-on-one basis. Number two, have friends. Have your support network. Reach out to them, guys. Having a good support network is quintessential to recovery. having the, you know, people reaching out to you, even if it's a, hey, how are you doing? Or even if you tell a friend, hey, you know what? This might be, you know, I remember I told one of my friends, hey, straight up, this is probably the worst heartbreak I've ever gone through before. I'm probably just gonna like reach out to you every so often and just tell you that I'm doing okay, you know, or like just checking in, like, hey, how are you doing, or whatever, right? And having that constant interaction, having someone reach out to you, even ask you, hey, how are you doing today? Gets your mind off of things and allows you to start healing. Finally, right? So we have self-care, good support network, and last but not least, finding yourself. And as I said, this is probably the most important thing throughout it all. And a lot of relationships, especially if you're anxiously attached, or if there is some form of avoidant attachment, and you're drawn to that form of avoidant attachment, we lose a piece of ourselves in the journey if you're not careful. And I think this is probably the most important advice you guys can get out of this video. A relationship is never 50-50. A relationship is two complete individuals coming together to make life beautiful. And that is how it should be. So as I'm telling you guys, if you guys are looking forward to the future, if you guys are starting to recover, you know, I'm here for you. You know, it sucks. It is a tough journey, and I will give you the best advice possible, situationally, and from all the stories that I have from all the clients that I've worked with. But, you know, you don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you guys. This is what this channel is about. As much as you guys probably have seen that I do like reactions and let's plays, the main purpose of this channel is to talk about mental health and to talk a little bit about self-care and self-love and what we can do to go ahead and improve. Now, somewhere along the video, you guys might have seen a couple of my results popping by. As I've mentioned, this is from an actual study that I ran with over 100 participants to go ahead and get these results, right? It was for my master's study. You had to go ahead and do something in a field that a lot of people haven't touched on. With that being said, guys, practice some self-care, practice some self-love. The next video coming up, you know, we'll go a little bit more in depth. I just wanted to go ahead and just throw a toucher out there, a feeler video out there about breakups and, well, we're still not done. Recovery time. Guys, everyone recovers differently. Sorry. Sorry to ruin that flow. Recovery's time affects everyone differently, right? So don't expect, you know, and I've had this as well where, like, you know, after more serious relationships and after like the breakups and stuff that happen, even for some of my clients, some of the most common advice and some of the worst advice that you'll get comes immediately from your family telling you to get over it. Don't. It's not something that you can get over out of a 1, 2, 3 basis. It's not something that the next morning you're going to wake up and feel absolutely fine. No, it takes a while, guys. It's a journey, right? Think about the amount of time that you guys spent together, right? That relationship was there for. You know, if that amount of time, right? If you were to say, give it 1/5 amount of time that you guys were together, would you even consider that a healthy amount of time for you to recover? So everyone recovers differently, right? So don't get me wrong. If you're a fast healer, if you're like, you know what, tomorrow I'm up and ready to go, good for you. But there are other individuals who take, you know, a relationship could ruin them for a couple of years. It could take them months to recover, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long. Take that time, find yourself, self-care, guys. I love you guys so much. As I mentioned before, I will be taking, you know, from 5 individuals, whoever like needs the help for any situation. As I said, I've covered everything from trauma, attachment, infidelity, whatever it may be. And you guys can do it anonymously. I don't have to know your name. You guys can email me from like a random email. Just use the code, and the first 5 people that go ahead and use that said little code that I'll put down in the comments will go ahead and get a response from me directly. And I'll go ahead and give you guys a video update on that. Anyway, practice some self-care, guys. I love you guys so much. Be safe. Bye.